Hey, what's up guys? In this tutorial we are going to learn about the big O notation. So this is going to be the full knowledge packed tutorial. In the first step we will learn about the what is a good code, and then what we will do is we will move towards the next steps such as what is big O notation. Then we will understand some big O notation by executing the one example, and then in the fourth step we will learn what is algorithmic efficiency. In the fifth step what we'll do is we will discuss the big O chart. So the chart that we will discuss is going to be this one. So we will discuss what this term means, O1 of n of log n, and all of these terms in big O notation. And then in the next step what we will do is we will learn about the different complexities which are the equations in big O notation, such as linear type complexity, constant time complexity, and we can also learn about the quadratic time complexity and many more. And then what we will do is we will learn all of these equations with the help of different examples. Then on the next steps what we'll do is we will do an examples by in order to understand the big O notation by using the one for loop, by using the nested loops, and by using different techniques. Then at the next step what we'll do is we will learn about the rules of big O notation, which is the rule book of big O notation. So in the rules there is basically worst case scenario, remove constants, different terms for different inputs, drop non-dominants. We will discuss all of these with the help of examples. So at the end of this tutorial you will have a clear understanding of all of these terms. How can you calculate the big O notation of your code or the function, and what are these terms and how these terms will help you when you will write your code next time. Then when we will finish discussing the time complexity in big O notation, we will move towards the space complexity. So what is space complexity in big O notation? How can we calculate the space complexity with the help of big O notation? What is heap and stack? What causes space complexity? So what are the reasons for the space complexity? Then we will also learn space complexity with the help of examples by executing the code. How can we visualize the space complexity, the time complexity in our code? Then at the final step what we'll do is we will take real world example of adding feature to Twitter, and then execute, or we can say then discuss its big O notation. So what it means that we will take the example of the Twitter, and if we want to add a feature to such a big application, how can we think about the feature, how can we calculate its big O notation in order to calculate its space complexity and the time complexity of running its code. Then at the end, in the bonus part, what I will do is I will give you cheat sheet about the big O notation. So the cheat sheet is going to contain all of the information about the big O notation that you need to understand. So it will be this one. So at the end I will give you time to copy this, and I will also explain all of these terms at the end of the tutorial. So these are all of the things that you need to understand for your next interview, or in order to understand the big O notation. If you want to understand data structures and algorithms, how you can implement the best data structure and the best algorithm to solve a particular problem. Now next let's move to our file. Now let's discuss what is good code. So I will write here. So what is good code? So a good code is basically a code which is readable as well as scalable. So I can divide it into two parts, which is readable and scalable. So our code should be readable, which means it should be clean. And if we write a code and we give it to other developers, or we can working on a project in which different developers work as a team, so it should be readable for all of them and they can clearly understand what you have write. So this is the readable part of the code. So what is scalable? So scalable means that if you have write a code, if you added a certain functionality in your code, For example, if your database or your user in the initial state is 10, or we can say 100, and you have write a code for the 100 users, but if in the futures these 100 users has convert into thousands or hundred thousands, or we can say 1 million users, then how your code behaves, how your code react to that increase in numbers. So it means, is your code took the same time that it took for the same users in the initial state, that is 100 users, or it will grow in the time, or it will have a gradually increase in the time. So this is mean with the scalable. So when we have written a code in the initial state, we have to understood all of the consequences if something happens, or if the user database grows, or what will happen in the future. So we have to keep in mind all of the views in our mind. So this is being with the scalable. So this is very important. So for example, if you have written for code in the initial state, so we have to keep all of the perspectives in our mind when we have initially writing a code for some feature or for some functionality that we want to add into our project or into our application. So this is means by readable and scalable. Now I think you have understood the difference between the readable and the scalable. So in order to write a scalable code, we use a big notation to measure the complexity of our code, or we can say the function. So what big O notation will do? So let's move towards the second step. So the second step is what is big O notation. Now I will go here. So here is the definition of a big O notation. Then I will explain and later also what is a big O notation in simple words. So first of all, let's read its definition. So big O notation is a mathematical notation that describes the limiting behavior of a function when the argument tends towards a particular value or infinity. So it means that if we have a function and we are receiving the argument, so let's say if the we are receiving an argument, the array with 10 words, or we can say with 10 inputs, so it has length of 10, and we are writing a function for it. So for example, if we want to find a number in it, we are running a loop, and we are finding a number, for example, at index 5. Now what will happen if this array has converted into 100 items, into 100,000 items, into 1 million items? So what will happen? So it means that how much time it will take, or we can say how much operations we have to perform if the user input grows, or if we can say the argument or the array that we have passed, if it grows, what will happen? So in order to calculate this, we use a big O notation. So big O notation is used for this. So big O notation is used to find the time complexity and the space complexity. We will discuss all of these topics in detail. So this is all about big O notation, the big O notation definition. So we will perform a lot of examples in this crash course in order to understand how big O notation works, how can we calculate the time complexity, the space complexity of a function. So we will perform a lot of examples. So let's move towards the first example. So let's move to this file. So the third step is going to be this one. So this will be the first example in order to understand the big O. So what I will do is first of all I will create a new file with the name of example1.js. So in this new file I will create a function, and we will create some basic example in order to understand the big O notation. So let's create a function. So what I will do is I will create a function with the name of find pen, and then what it will do is this function will get an array. So what we will do is we will iterate through this array in order to find a simple index of this pen item which is in the array. So what I will do is I will run a for loop here. So it will be this one, and oops, So let's write it something like this, and let I is equal to 0, I will be less than array dot length, and then it will increment. So what we want to do is so first of all let's create an array. So this array we can say as pen, and let's say this array has only one item that we can say is pen. So this for loop will iterate through this array, and then it will find this item. So let's write the if condition here. So what this if condition will say, it will say if array I is equal to this pen, then what it will do is it will log that we have find the pen, we have find the pen. Let's save it. And now what I will do is I will also want to calculate the time for this function, how much time it will take for this function to run. So for this what I will do is I will create let t1 is equal to performance dot now, and then when it will iterate through this array. Now we also calculate the time when the for loop will end it. So what I will do is I will create a second variable with the name of t2, and in this variable I will store this time which will be performance dot now. So this is a built-in in JavaScript. So in your language that you will do, you will have some other thing. So the main idea is here is to understand it. So let's save it. And now what I want to do is I want to log the difference. So the difference will be t2 minus t1. So let's save it. Clear. Open the terminal. So clear the terminal. Now I am in this folder which is big connotation, and now what I want to do is I want to run this code. So this is example 1.js. So let's run this code. And before running the code, let's first of all call this function which is find pen. So here what I will do is I will pass this function or as an argument this array. Now let's pass this pen as an argument which is the array. Let's save it. Now what I will do is I will run the code. Now you will see we have find the pen. So we have find the pen, and here we have console.log the time that has taken to run this code. So as you will see this time is in milliseconds. So this amount of time has taken by this machine to run this function. So as you will see here is only one item which is the pen. So if this we can say this array is bigger, then we will calculate how long it will take. So let's create a bigger array which will contain more items. So for example, if it will contain 1, or we can say 2, similarly 9. So what I want to do is, so let's see, we want to find the 9 here. So let's change the name to find 9, and here also change the name to find 9. Let's save it, and here also change this array name. Now we also change this, we can say, if when we will iterate through this array, what we want to check is if this item is equal to 9, then we will log that we have found the number. Let's save it, and now we will calculate how long it will take to run this function. Now run the code again. Now you will see how long it will take. So first one is 56, and now it has been 4.8. So this is the difference in the time that is took by the machine to run this function. So it will be different every time when you will run this function. So let's clear the terminal, run the code again. Now you see previously we have 4 point something, and now we have 5. And now if I run the code again, now you see it is 10 point something. So this time vary from time to time. If you have a better machine, you maybe have this time differently. For example, in your machine maybe it will run in something 0.00, and if you have old machine like me, it will run in 5 point or 10 point or something like this. So this depends on the machine how time it will take to run a certain amount of a certain function or a certain code. Now let's change it and let's test it with bigger arrays such as 10, or we can say 100 or 100,000. So for this, let's create a new variable. So let's create a new variable with the name of const, or we can say pen. So this will be an array. We can create a new array, and then in this parenthesis we will pass how much items we want in the array. And now let's give it uh, we can say the properties or the values that we want in this array. So for this we use a fill, and in this fill we will pass the pen, and what it will do is it will create an array of 1,000 items with the name of pen. So let's save it, and now I will pass it as an argument to this function, which will be the pen, and then it will compare it with the pen again. Let's save it, and now it will what it will do is it will calculate the time, and it will also log that how many time it has found this, we can say this array, or we can say the pen element or the pen item in this array. So as you will see, so first of all clear the terminal, run the code again. Now here you will see, so it has taken 988. I think this time is in milliseconds, maybe I am not sure. I think it is in milliseconds. So as you will see how long it has took the time to run this function. So as you see the previous time, we can say the previous array, it took around 4 millisecond or 5 millisecond or 10 milliseconds in that range. Now if the array has increased in size, for example if this array has increased in the size of 1,000, now it has changed simply the timings, the time taken by machine to run this code. So this is, there is lot of difference between 4 millisecond and we can say the 1,000 millisecond. You can understand the clear difference, and this is why it is to understood what is big O notation, how important it is to use big O notation when our code base grows, or sorry we can say database grows. So let's test it with the 100,000, or you can say this is the 1,000, this is 10,000. Now you will see in the previous it has logged it 1,000 times. So it means that, what it means that it has logged it 1,000 times. So you will see how long it has taken. So if we will calculate it with the 10,000, or you can say 100,000, it will take a lot of time. So let's calculate it with the 1,000. So here we with the 1,000 items, it has taken 988 milliseconds, and if it will be 10,000 items array, how long it will take? So let's run this function. Now you will see it is logging and it's taking a lot of time. So it is printing at 10,000 items. So as you will see, with the 1,000 items it took 9 or we can say 988 milliseconds, and now with the 10,000 items this machine had took 8,737 milliseconds to run this function with an array, or we can say with an array which has an item of 10,000. So you can clearly understand the difference with when our database grows, how important is to uh, write a code that doesn't grow. For example, if we can say that we don't want to make our code something like this, that if our input grows, or you can say if the argument or the database grows, our code simply took a lot of time to run that code, or you can say to run that function. We have to write a scalable code. So for this we have to understood the big O notations. So by this example I hope you have understood how, or we can say how important it is to understand the big O notation to make our code scalable and to make our code efficient.
and to write a code which did not take a lot of time when our input grows. So this is the basic idea of this example that you will understood. So there is another way. For example, now we are calculating the time, so the time will be vary. For example, if you have a new MacBook Pro, maybe this 8037 millisecond take for my machine, maybe by your machine will be something like 10 millisecond, or we can say the 100 millisecond. So it will be different for any machine. For different languages it will be different. So for example, some languages are fast, some are not that fast. For example, C++ is fast, so in C++ it will take it less time to run this code. Now we have to calculate the operations performed by the machine when the input grows. So big O notation is all about calculating the operations, not about calculating the time, because the time will be varied from one machine to another. For example, the servers on which our application run will have good servers. If you have good servers it will take less time, and if I will run some uh, we can say normal type laptop, it will take a much longer time. So the time varies from we can say machine to machine, but what we can say is the operations will be remained same. So we have to calculate the big O notation on the basis of we can say operations performed by the machine. So now we will move to the next step, and we will clearly understand all of the things that we want that we need to understand in order to we can say in order to make our basic strongs of data structures and algorithms. Because in later videos when we learn about the different data structures and algorithms such as we can say arrays, linked lists, stacks, queues, hash tables, and different of the things we have to keep in mind this big O notation. How can we calculate the time complexity, the space complexity of a function with the help of big O notation? Because it will help us to write a scalable code, and it will help us to we can say to find the correct data structure and the correct algorithm that doesn't take as much time as it will if the input grows. So this is the main idea of this example, that you understood why we have to focus on big O notation and why we have to understood this. Now I think you have understood the idea of big O notation, and now let's move to the next step. So the next step in our agenda is what is algorithmic efficiency. So what is algorithmic efficiency? Let's move to the this file, and here we will write what is. So what we can do is we can copy it from here. So let's copy it, paste it here. So what is algorithmic efficiency? So algorithmic efficiency is how many operations do you have to perform if the list of the input increases. So I will write it here, you can also copy it, that oops, how many operations we have to perform if the input grows, we can say if the input grows. So this is the algorithmic efficiency, we can say. Let's save it. Now what this line means, so if we go to our example one, as you will see here, if when we have a simple array with one item, it has to perform the one operation. So when I have took the example of this 10,000 items, so it has performed 10,000 operations. So as you will see here, it has performed 10,000 operations, and it has logged 10,000 times that we have find the number. So it means that if the input grows for this function, or for this example one, if the input grows, the number of we can say the number of operations that we have to perform will increase gradually, or we can say linearly. If we have 10,000 items, then we have to perform 10,000 operations. If we have 100,000 items, then we have to perform 100,000 operations. So now I think you can clearly understood what is algorithmic efficiency. So what is a good, we can say the what is a good algorithm. So if we have to perform a less operations, if our input grows gradually, then it is a good algorithm. And if the algorithm, we can say, if the number of operations will increase with the input, then we can say it is not a good algorithm, because we don't want to take a lot of time to run a function, or we can say when our we don't want to take a lot of time to run our application. So the less operations we have to perform for a bigger input, it will have a good algorithm efficiency, or we can say it will be a good algorithm. But if it will take a, if it will perform a lot of operations with, when we have a when we can say the input approaches to infinity or to a very great number such as 100,000 or million, then maybe it's not a good algorithm. So we have to write a, we have to keep in mind the algorithm efficiency when we will write our code for, we can say, in the future projects. We have to write in mind what is algorithm efficiency, what is a good algorithm, what is a bad algorithm. So we have to understood this. So basically this is the main idea of algorithm efficiency, that how many operations we have to perform if the input grows. So if the number of operations will be less, then it will be a good algorithm. If the number of operations will increase gradually, or we can say the quadratically or different, we will do a different examples in which you will understand how the number of operations will grow when the input will grow, then it will not be good algorithm. So now let's move to the next step. So the next step is, let's discuss the Big O chart. Now let's go to the browser, and here you will see the Big O complexity chart. So it will clearly explains what is a, we can say, what is a good algorithm, what is a bad algorithm, what is a fair algorithm, what is a good and what is an excellent algorithm. So now you can see the algorithms will fall, which will fall in this category. For example, in green area, the O of 1 is, we can say, that is an excellent algorithm if it has an time complexity, or we can say the space complexity is O of 1. So O of 1 is a constant time. If we can say O of log of n, so it is also a good algorithm, because it will take a same amount of time when we can say the O of 1 and this one, with a little bit of difference, that the number of operations performed when the user input grows will be this, I think will be the same one, not will be with a lot of difference, as you will see with this O n log of n, which is log linear, and with this quadratic, and then we can say the exponential growth and this factorial time. So O of 1 is constant time complexity, O log of n, we can say it is logarithmic complexity, then O of n is a linear time complexity. So the previous code that we, example 1 that we have written is the this one, which is, we can say, linear time complexity, which states that if the number of input grows, the number of operations will also be grows. For example, if the number of input will be 10, then it will perform 10 operations. If it will be 100,000, then it will perform 100,000 operations. Now what is n log of n? So as you can see here, it is a bad algorithm, which will take, which will have this big notation of this time algorithm complexity, or we can say this time complexity, and these are horrible, which are we can say quadratic or exponential or factorial time. So we will clearly understood what is the big O notation, and we have see the chart of different terms. We will discuss it in later part, and we will also do a lot of examples, because with the help of examples you will clearly understood how to calculate them, and which will be good one and which will be bad. So let's move to the next step. So now let's discuss the linear time complexity and the constant time complexity with the help of examples. Now what I will do is I will create a file with the name of linear.js, and I will also create a file with the name of constant.js. Now first of all let's discuss about the constant time, we can say the constant time complexity in Big O notation. So this example is about the constant time complexity. What is the constant time complexity in Big O notation? So first of all, I will write an example, and we will calculate an efficiency or this constant time, and then we will discuss that what is the constant time complexity in Big O notation. So first of all, let's write a function. So I will create a function with the name of log first. Then what it will do is it will have an array with the help of with an argument as an argument. And first of all, create this array. Now create an array. So for example, let's say it have 1 2 3 4, we can say 11 items. Let's save it. And now what we want to do is we want to get the first item of this array. So what we'll do is we will simply log it, and what we'll do is we will use array, and we will get the first item. So we'll log it, it will show in the terminal. Now what we have to do is we have to call this function. So the function name is log first. Let's save it and now run the code. So let's run the code. The file name is constant.js. Now you will see it has got the first item. Now if I have, for example, an array which has maybe 1000 items, which will be maybe 100,000 items, or will be million items in this array, but what we want to do is we want to get the first item. So it doesn't matter how this input grows, it doesn't have an impact on our function, or we can say the number of operations that we want to perform, because we just want to get the first item in this array. And if there will be two items, or if there will be 100,000 items, the number of operations will remain the same, because we will just get the first item by using the array. Then in this array we will pass the index of the item that we want to get. So as you will see, this is the example of constant time complexity. So constant time complexity means that, if the number of inputs grows, the number of operations, the number of operations will remain the same. So this is one of the best type of, we can say, Big O notations, which shows us that our code is good, efficient and scalable. So I hope you have understood the idea of constant time complexity. What is a constant time complexity? So for example, this example clearly shows you that the number of operations will remain same irrespective of how the array will grow, because we are only performing one operation when we have 10 items, and if the input will lead to infinity, then we also have to perform the one operation because we only want to access the first item. So this is the example of constant time complexity. Now how can we represent a constant time complexity? So we can simply say that, so here we can so let's write a comment. We can simply say that it is of 1, which means that it is performing only one operation. So if it may be performing different, for example 10 operations, but it will remain the same when the input grows, so it will be of 10. But at last we tend to, or we can say we should write this, that it will be constant time complexity, and the constant time complexity we can define it by O of 1. So this is the equation for the constant time complexity example. Now what we have to do is, now we will move towards the next step, which is the linear time complexity. So let's go to this file. Now let's write a function for the linear time complexity. So let's write an example. So give it a name of challenge. So what it will do, it will receive an argument with the name of input. Then what I want to do is, let's create some variable with the name of a will be 20, and then a will be 20 plus 10. Oops. Then what I will do is, then on the next line what I want to do is, so a is equal to a will, so a is equal to a plus 10, a plus 10, it will be a is equal to 30. Now in the next step what I want to do is, I want to run a for loop. So the for loop will be, let I is equal to 0, and then I will be less than, oops, input dot length. Then we will increment the I, then the functions that we want to perform. So let's assume we are calling another function here. So we can say another function we are calling, and then we will create some variables such as, let's grow is equal to true, and then we will increment this a here, which will be a plus plus, and then we will return this a from our function. So let's return a from our function. Now what we want to do here is, we want to calculate the big O, or we can say the big O notation for this function. Now let's pause it. So also create input array. So in this input, let's add some of the items such as 9, and then we want to calculate the time complexity, or we can say the big O notation of every line, also the variables, the for loops, and the function calls. So let's create. So let's go to the first line. So in the first line is a is equal to 20. So oops, so a is equal to 20, and here what we will have is, we will have a of 1. So it will be of 1, because it is only one operation, because we are just giving a adding storing a value in a variable. So this is just of 1. So for variables we have of 1 time complexity. So later you don't have to calculate the time complexities of these variables. You just want to understand how much input grows, and we can say the number of operations that you are performing. But this is the basic example, or the example that which makes the basic basis of you. So here we are calculating the big O of every line, so you can understand how we calculate the big O notations. So for the second line it will also have a big O notation of 1, and for the third line, as you will see, this for loop will have a time complexity of O of n, because it depends on the number of inputs that we will pass here. So for example, when I will call this function, which will be challenge, and then I will pass this array as an argument, so it will have a of n operations it has to perform. So for the next line, it will also have of n time complexity, same with this one, and also with this one, and for a return it will be O of 1, because we will return only one time. So I will explain why return have of one time complexity, and why these terms have
So let's see. So here there are just variables. So for example, a is equal to 20. There is only one operation that we are just storing the values, and basically these are not operations. These are just the value storing in this variable in the memory. The number of operations will start when we will run the for loop here. So as you will see, the number of operations will, so for example, let's see, here we have 9 items, and when we will run this loop, this, we can say, these functions that we have declared something else in our code, for example in the project, this function will be called 9 times, because the number of inputs is 9 and the for loop is running 9 times. Similarly, this variable will be called true for the 9 times. This a will be incremented 9 times. So if we have 100 items, these functions will be called 100, and which the function which has the name of another function, it will be called 100 times. Similarly, this value will be stored in this variable 100 times, and also this number will be incremented 100 times, because these are depending on the input. So if the input grows, these operations that we have to perform will also grow. So this is basically the linear time complexity, which we will state it by using the O, and in the parentheses we write N, and then we are returning an A when all of these operations will complete. So this will be of one time complexity, because this operation will be performed only one time, because we are returning from the function only one type. Now what I will do is I will calculate the time complexity of it. So let's go here. So it will be 1. So let's calculate it. Then plus 1. Then here it will be plus 1. For return it will also be a 1 time. Then now let's calculate the of n's, which are 1 2 3 4. So there are 4 of n's in our code. So let's add this 1 2 3 and 4. So as you can see, we are calculating the big O. Then these 1 1 1 will be adding to 3, and then it will become 2 4n. So what we can say, that O in the parentheses 3, oops, not 2, 3 plus 4n is the notation or the time complexity for this code. So what we can do is, so in the next part or in later parts, what we'll do is we will discuss, or we can say we will discuss all of these rules with the help of examples. So what these rules will do, state us, or what they tell us to do when we have a mind to calculate the big O notations. So for this, it means that we ignore the constants in our equation, and we will just have O of n time complexity. We will discuss it when we will understand these rules in the later parts, that why we want to remove the constants. So here you just understood that when we will have equation something like 3 plus 4 and plus 5 and plus 3 plus 2, something like this, we have a concern with the largest number, or we can say we have just concern with the n. So we will remove the 3, and then we will have 4n, and we are just concerning with the n. So our big O notation will be O of 1, O of n, sorry. So this is the example with one for loop. So then in the next part, what we'll do is we will also discuss the two, when we will have two for loops, what we will do, how can we calculate the big O notation for the nested loops. So let's move towards that. So now let's create a new file to discuss the two for loops. The next example is about the two for loops. Here we are performing the just one for loop, and now let's create a new file. Here we will perform that example. So I can name it as an example 2. Oops. not example 1, it will be example2.js, and here we will perform it, this example. So first of all, let's create a function. So we'll create a function with the name of another, or we can say another challenge. Then we have a parenthesis, and in the parenthesis we will receive the input, and then here all of our code for our function will be. So let's create a few variables such as a is equal to 5 and b will be equal to 10, and then we can say let c is equal to 15. And in this function, let's say we have these three variables, and then we will run the for loop. So first of all, let's run the for loop. So it will be let I is equal to 0, I will be less than, which will be input dot length, and then we will increment this I. And after incrementing it, what I want to do is I want to perform some actions. So for example, I will create a new variable with the name of x, and I will add 1 to this I. This value will be stored in x. Then I will create a new variable with the name of y, then I will add 2 to this I and store it in y. And then I will create a new variable z, where here I will store I plus 3. So this will be the for loop, first for loop. And for the second for loop, what I want to do is I will again run this function, or we can say not run the function, now again create this for loop, and this for loop will run from I of 0 to I of length, input dot length. So for let's also create an input which will be array. Now in the array, give it some of the values. So for example, this will be the array. And now what I want to do is, for this for loop, I also want to create a new variables. So for example, I will create a variable e, and it will be, we can say, so for this for loop we have used I variable, so let's use j for this, so we don't have any confusion. So for this we will use j, and now we are getting the error for what. So here we also want a j. So in the e, what I want to do is I want to store the j multiplied by 2, and then for the f, what I want to store is I want to store j multiplied by 3. So all of these value will be stored in these variables. Now next thing what I want to do is I will create a variable such as my name, and then I will give it here my name, which is a song. And now what I will do is I will call this function. So the function name is another challenge and other challenge, and here we will pass this array as an argument. Let's save it. And now you will see we have created an array. Now we have passes this array as an argument, and we are receiving this argument. Then we have created some of the variables, then we have created another variable and store these values, we can say the inputs through which we are iterating the way you want to pronounce this word. So I plus 1 will be stored in x, I plus 2 will be in the y, and I plus 3 in the z. And for loop we have some different operations, which are these. So these so to calculate the big O for two for loops will be the same, in the same way that we have calculated it for a single for loop. So hide the terminal. Now let's calculate the we can say big O for every line. In the later parts, what we will do is we will use a, we can say, simpler method to calculate the big O notation, which will be very simple. So this is I have explaining it like this, so you can understood how can we calculate the big O. So we can you can
read the line, and in your mind you can calculate the big O. So this is the idea, that's why I'm explaining it like this. I'm calculating the big O of every line instead of just wrapping up and completing this tutorial in 20 minutes. So that's why I am explaining thoroughly, that you have understood the idea of big O notation, that how can we calculate the big O, how can we understood this concept. So let's start from line 1. So for line 1 we will have a big O of, oops, so big O of 1. For second line will also we have a big O of 1, and for the third line, oops, we will also have a big O of 1, because we are not performing any operations here. These are just the values which are storing in the variables. So now in the next line, here we are calling a for loop, or we can say we are performing a for loop. Now we have of and operations, which we can say, uh, because it depends on the input that we are getting from the parameter. So if the input grows, the number of operations will grow. So similarly to here, we have it of n, of n, of n, and here it will be also of n, and it will be also of n, because these are all depending on this input. So for example, if there are, we have 9 inputs, these values, these operations will run 9 times. So if we similarly here, because the input is 9, we have to perform 9 times these operations. So basically it, you can understood that how can we, how I'm calculating the big O here. So when it is gradually increasing, so for example, if we have 10 inputs, then we are performing 10 times this. So it means that we have O of n operations. Now for this, because this is outside of for loop, now we are not performing the O of n, we are this value just have O of 1 operations, or O of n time, O of 1 time complexity. Now let's calculate the big O of this function. Now let's say 1, we have 1 2 3 4, so we have 4 times 1, oops, and n is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So n is 7 times, so instead of writing the n 7 times, let's write the 7n, and also write the 4 for the constants. So you can see the big O for this function is, big O for this function is 4 plus 7n. But what we want to do is, when we are calculating the big O, we remove the constants from the final result. So the constants here are, first of all, the constant is 4, we will remove the 4, and then the constant is 7, then we will remove the 7. Now we have O of n time complexity, which is a linear time complexity. So let's save it. In this way you can calculate this big O notation, or you can say the time complexity for your function or for your code. So in this way, for the two for loops, you can calculate the, we can say the time complexity. And in the so one thing that I want to explain, that in your interviews or when you are writing professional type of coding, or you are performing examples, or we can say the, some, we can say the code examples in websites such as LeetCode or HackerRank or Code Wars or CodeChef. Here what you what you can do is, you can just calculate these in the for loops. You can calculate the number of operations. For example, it has O of n time operations. You can just write O of n, because at that time you can clearly, in your mind, you can clearly see the O of big O of every line. So in this way you can calculate the big O notation when you are performing the real world projects. So let's move to the next part. So let's go to the our file index.js. So we have understood the linear time complexity, also the constant time complexity, how can we calculate these complexities, and we have also understood the examples by using the one for loop, by using the two for loops. So the next step is the rule book of Big O notation. So what are the rules? So before moving towards the rules, let's go towards the my channel. So my channel name is Programming with Arslan. So here you can find a different type of tutorials. If you want to learn JavaScript, or if you want to learn Node.js, I am uploading videos in this series, which is Node.js. And in this playlist, first of all we have covered the basics with the Node.js, and then we will cover the basics of Express.js, and then we will expand this playlist. Then we will perform a lot of real world projects in this playlist, so you can clearly master the Node.js. And here I have also created a series for master data structures and algorithms. Here what we will do is we will from zero we will start it, and we will master the data structures and algorithms completely. And then when we will completely understood all of the data structures and algorithms, such as linked list, stacks, queues, all of these ones, then we will also solve the real world questions of on the basis of data structures and algorithms from the websites like LeetCode. So this is the beginning of this playlist, which is data structures and algorithms, and here I will upload videos regularly. So you can also learn data structures and algorithms from this playlist, because I will keep uploading tutorials on data structures and algorithms now. And also if you want to learn JavaScript or HTML, CSS, you can follow these playlists. And in the future I will also upload tutorials, and I'll also create a complete course on JavaScript, React, and some other technologies. So this is the introduction that I want to edit, and now let's move towards our tutorial, or we can say our goal. So let's discuss about the rule book of the Big O notation. So the first first rule of our rule book is the worst case scenario. So what is the worst case scenario? So we always discuss, or we can say we always keep in mind the worst case scenario in our Big O notation when we will calculate. So for example, let's go towards the example here. So let's say this is the example of the Big O notation. So how can we can say that how can we find the best scenario and the worst scenario? So let's find the example which is related to it, or we can say. So here I think with this example I can clearly explain that the difference between the best case and the worst case. So the best case is that, for example, as we have seen earlier, that if there will be only one item in the array. So for example, if there will be only one item in the array, which will be pen, and if it will find a pen, then it will log it here. So this is the best case, that the item will be present at the beginning and the only item. So the worst case is that if it will have, for example, thousands of items, for example, it will have thousands of items, and then at the end there will be pen. So this is the, we can say this is the worst case, that we have to iterate all of the array to find this pen item. So when we calculate Big O notation, we always concerned about the worst case scenario. So we have to calculate the Big O notation for the worst case, not for the, we can say, for the best case scenario. So we always concerned about the worst case. So this is the idea behind the best case and the worst case scenarios. So in Big O notation, we always care about the worst case scenario. So let's discuss the worst case scenario with the help of the examples. So I will perform an examples. With the help of these examples, you will clearly understood what is the concept of worst case scenario and how can we calculate the worst case scenario. So let's create a new file.
So I will create a new file with the name of example3.js. So here what we will do is, first of all we will create an array which with the name of all, and in this array we will have different items such as 1 2 3 and 2 9. Then let's create a function. So the function name is going to be defined one, and then we will receive array as an we can say parameter, and we will pass it as an argument when we will call this function. So what we'll do is we will run a for loop. So for loop, let I will be equal to 0, and then the length of the I will be less than or the equal to the length of this array, and then we will increment the I. Oops, what is happening here? And then for the curly braces here, what we want to do is we want to check if the 1 is present in this array or not. So let's so for first of all what I want to do is I want to console.log running. So what it will do is it will tell us how many times this array has been not an array, how long this for loop is running. So now set the condition. So we want to check the condition that if array of I is equal to 1, then what I want to do is I want to console.log that found 1. It means that I have found 1. And then what I will do is I will break this loop. Oops. I will break it from it. I will break. Let's save it, and now let's call this function here. So let's find 1, and here pass this array which is all. Let's save it, clear the terminal. So the name of the file is node example3.js. Now let's run the code. Now you will see our for loop has run one time, and it has found 1 at place index 1. So as you can see, this is the best case scenario, because in this scenario we just have run the for loop just one time, because we have found our target at index 0. So this is the way you can understood that what is the best case scenario. So the best case scenario is in the best case scenario just what I can say that we have just run the minimum operations that we can run. So in this way we can run this one operation which will be the minimum operations. So this will be the best case scenario in which our loop has run only one time. So let's say if our 1 is not present here. So for example, let's say it is present here. Let's see how many times our loop will run. So now you will see our loop has run 1 2 3 4 4 times our loop has run, and then it has found 1. So what will be the worst case scenario? So the worst case scenario is going to be that if our target that we want to find is present at the end of the array, then it will be the worst case scenario. It means that our loop will run the maximum times. For example, it will be run uh, if the number of inputs is 9, then it will run 9 times. If the number of inputs will be 100, it will run 100 times. If the number of inputs will be 100,000, then it will run 100,000 times. So we are just concerned with the worst case scenario in when we were calculating the big O notation. We are not concerning about the best case scenario and any other scenario. We are just concerned about the worst case scenario. So this is the worst case scenario for this example, for this function, that if our target is present at the end of an array. So this will be the worst case scenario. So if we want to calculate the big O notation for it, so the big O notation for this is going to be O of n times. So it will be O of n times. This is because the number of operations that it is performing will depend on the length of an array. So for example, the worst, we are concerning about the worst case scenario, and in the worst case scenario this loop will run n times. We can say the array dot length times it will run, so it will be O of n. So you can also write O of n here, but the simple idea is that it will have a big O notation of n, so which means that it has a linear time complexity. Oops. So it has a linear time complexity. Let's save it. So this is the main idea. So you can also write O of n for this, because it will run O of n times, and also this condition will be checked for O of n times. So you can also check it like this, but the main idea is going to be that this will be the, it will have a time complexity of O of n, which will be the linear time complexity. So from this diagram you can understood that the linear time complexity is going to be the this one, which is O of n. So this is the main idea about the worst case scenario. In this way you can find the big O notation by considering in your mind that I have to calculate it for the worst case, not for the best case, because big O notation is always concerned about the worst case. So this is the first point of our rule book, which is we are always concerned about the worst case. Now we have discussed the first rule, which is, we can say, is the worst case scenario, and let's move towards the second rule. So the second rule is remove constant. So when we will calculate the big O notation, we have to remove the constants from it. So let's take the example that we have created here. So let's clear the terminal, and now you can see here. So we have found big O of n here. Now we have discussed it earlier. Now I will explain to you why we have removed the constant, or because this is the rule for the big O notation, that we are not concerned about the worst case, we are not concerned about the constants, we are also concerned, we are just concerned about the length, or we can say the inputs, which will be the n. So we can say it will be O of 1. So 1 2 3, so there will be three ones, so there will be three ones, and the n is going to be 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, so there will be 7 n's, so it will be 7n, and it will be, so we are getting 3 plus 4n. But the rule of big O notation says that remove constants. So we are not, what we can say is that constants are not our concern here. So I think yes, we are here. So these constants are not our, we can say, concern. Why these are not our concern? So I will tell you the reason. So for example, if n that we are getting as a parameter from the function, or we are, when we are calling it, we are passing it as an argument. So why are constants are not our concern? Because when we have a length of 100,000, so adding 3 to 100,000 has a negligible effect. So this is the reason behind it, that we are not concerning about the constant. So for example, if the length of n is 1 million and we are concerning for the worst case, so the, for example, if the worst case is 1 million, and calculating, or we can say the adding 3 to we can say that 1 million has negligible effect. So for this reason we will remove the 3, and then we are left with the 7n, and the 7n, it means that it has a linear time complexity, so it will remain the same. For 1 million it will be multiplied by 7, for 2 million, for even for maybe you can take a large term such as 1 billion,
it will remain the constant, that it will multiply by 7. It means that it will remain as linear time. So to simplify, we will remove that 7 also, and then for this reason we have this linear time complexity of n. So in this way we can remove the constants when we are calculating the big O notation. So I hope you have understood how can or why you remove the constants when you are calculating the big O notations. So this is the second rule of our rule book, that remove the constants when you're calculating the big O notation. The first step was always concerned about the worst case scenario, and the second rule of our big O notation rule book is that remove the constants. So we have discussed the first two rules. Now let's move towards the third rule. So let's go to this file, and in this file we are let's move towards the third rule, which says different terms for inputs. So we can also say it like that: different terms for different inputs. Let's save it. And now understood this, different terms for different inputs. So I will create a new file to explain this example. So let's create it here, which will be example4.js. so in this file I will explain it. So let's create a function. So I will create a function and giving it the name of log items. So in this function we are receiving the two arguments, so we can name it as array1, and for the second one we can name it as array2. So you can see here that we are receiving the two arrays. In the previous example we are just receiving the one array as an argument, or we can say we are passing the one array as an argument, and we are receiving the one array in the parameter of the function. So in this example, so also comment it here that we are discussing this topic, which is different terms for different inputs. So here we have different inputs. For example, the inputs here are array1 and array2, and here what I want to do is I want to run for loop for each of this array. So for the array1 I will run for each. So oops, so it will have an single item as an argument. Oops, single item. So this is also the version of the for loop in JavaScript. So if you are using any other language such as C++, Java, Python, maybe C Sharp, any language, you can use for loop in place of for each, and it will have a similar role that we are iterating through the each element of the array. Now we are getting the single item, as in the previous examples that we are getting the I. Here we are getting the single item which are in the array, and we are just what we are doing is we are just console we are logging this item. Now we will create a new we are running a for loop to it, which will be I am using for each for this, and what we are doing is we are just logging this. So it means that we have two inputs and we are running for loops on these two different inputs in our function. So what is the complexity of our we can say the time complexity of our equation, or we can say our function is? So we can calculate it as an of n, because it will run of n times, and this function will also run of n times. Now what we can do is our rule is saying that different terms for different inputs. For example, this is a different input, array1 is a different input, array2 is a different input. So we can't use the same term for these inputs these inputs. So we can use a for this input, or we can say for one input, b for different inputs. So for example, if we have three different inputs, we can use three different terms. These terms can be anyone, xyz, abc, we can say efg. The way the terms that you want you can use here. So the main idea is that we just have to use different inputs for different terms, or we can say different terms for the different inputs. Now what we can say is the time complexity for this is going to be O of A plus B. So O of A plus B. So this is the third rule, which says that different terms for different inputs. So if so, let's see what will happen if we will have a nested for loop. So for example, uh, we can say that we have a for loop like this, that one item is here and then we are running the for loop again. So in this scenario, our a plus b will be converted into a multiplied by b. So this is the case here. So you have to understood that if we have nested loops and we are using different inputs, then we will multiply these two terms. Otherwise, we will use add these two terms. So let's save it. So this is the third rule of our Big O notation rule book, which states that different terms for different inputs. So we have discussed about the for loops, how can we calculate the big O for loops, and now I want to calculate the big O notation of O of n square. So the O of n square will be this one. So it has the name of quadratic time complexity. So in our cheat sheet I will have here, so it will be here that O of n square is quadratic time complexity, which means that every element in a collection need to compare to every other element. So it has an O of n square. So what I will do is I will create a new example. So here I will create a new file with the name of example 5, and here we will discuss about the, we can say, quadratic. So the name of here is quadratic time complexity, which is of n square, and we are using for loops, we can say nested for loops, and we can say QUA quadratic time complexity. Let's save it, and now you can understand with the help of the example that I'm going to give you, that first of all create an array which will say items, and then you can name it them as A, B, C. So let's see, we have three items, and then we will create a function which will say log all pairs. It will say log all pairs, and then what it will do is it will receive an array as an argument, and then here what we will do is we will run a for loop. So the for loop is going to be let I is equal to 0, I will be array dot length, and then we will increment it, and in this for loop I will create a nested for loop. So the nested for loop, what it will do is it will check it for every element. For example, if we want to log all pairs of an array, then it for a it will make an pair for a and a and b, a and c. When it will complete, then it will move to the next step. So it will make a pair with b, such as b of a, b and b, b and c, and similarly like this. Now it will be array array dot length, and it will be j plus plus. So now what we want to log is that console dot log, and then we want to log the all pairs of an array here. So let's save it. Now call this function here which say log all pairs, and here we will, what we can say is we can pass these items as an argument, Now clear the terminal, run the code. So the code is going to be example, I think so it is just an example. So run this code. So we are getting the undefined here. Let's see what is happening. So we are running the code, we have an array and then we are passing it as an argument here. So I think I have a mistake here. Array of I and then array of j. Let's save it and now let's run the code again. Clear the terminal. Now you will see our code is running and we are printing all of the pairs of an array. So now you can see the code or the function that we have created for calculating the quadratic time complexity, which we can also say it as an O of n square. So this is the way we can write a nested for loops. And now how can we calculate the, we can say the big O of it. Now you have to understood that whenever we are using nested loops, you can see that for every nested loop we will have a quadratic time complexity. So the quadratic time complexity is going to be like this. So this line you can say, see here, of n square. So whenever you will use for loop, you have nested for loops, you have to simply understood that this is a quadratic time complexity. And for this we have time complexity of O of n square. Let's save it. And from our cheat sheet, what it means that every element is in a collection need to be compared to every other element. So in example you can say every element in a collection, which means that a, it will be compared to the every element in the collection. So if a, it will compare to b, it will also be compared to c. So when we will move to the next step, which is b, so it will be compared to with the a, with the b, with the c. Similarly c will be compared with the a, with the b, with the c. It means that every element in the collection is, we can say, is compared to the every other element in the collection and with itself also. So this is the example of the quadratic time complexity. So we can say it as quadratic time complexity. So I hope you have understood how can we calculate the quadratic time complexity and how can we calculate the big O notation for the nested loops. So for the nested loops there will also be a time complexity of n square. So let's move to the next step. Now let's go to our index.js file. So the last rule of our big O notation rulebook is drop non-dominants. So what is drop non-dominants? So we have deal with them in the previous sections, that the way we can drop the for and the constants and the non-dominants. So let's also explain it and discuss it with the help of example. So let's create a new file with the name of, so it will be example6.js. So in this example let's so what I will do is, so here I will copy this code. Let's copy it, paste it here, and I will comment it out, and let's copy that we are discussing about the fourth rule, which is the drop non-dominance. So here let's see, so let's copy it, or we can say, so in the previous examples we have created a for loop, and let's copy the one for loop from here. So it will be this one. Let's paste it here, hide the terminal, and just focus here. So as you will see, let's see, we have one for loop here and then we have this nested for loop here. Now you can clearly understood that the big O notation for this for loop is going to be the O of n, and the big O notation for this nested for loop is going to be, we can say, O of n square. So the big O notation for this nested for loop is going to be the O of n square. Now how can we calculate the final big O notation of this function? If there are two loops, or we can say there is a single loop and there is another a nested loop, how can we calculate the big O notation for this? So here we can apply the fourth rule, which states that drop the non-dominants. So let's calculate the big O for it. So the big O notation is going to be, so for example we have two values which is n and n of square. So it will be something like this, write them in parentheses, and it will say O of n and n on of n and O of n square. So how can we calculate it? Now you have to apply this rule which states that drop the non-dominants. So it means that we have to drop the non-dominant here. Which is the non-dominant term? The non-dominant term is this n. So for example, let's say if we have 100, so 100 multiplied by 100 is far more greater than the 100. So now you can clearly understood that what is the mean by the non-dominant terms. So the non-dominant terms means that the term which has a negligible effect. So here n has a negligible effect. For example, if we can say if the n is 1 million, the square of the 1 million will be far more than the square of than the just 1 million. So for example, if we have 100, the square of the 100 will be something like, we can say, 10,000, and 10,000 and 100 has a negligible effect to 10,000. So we can remove the n. So you have understood the idea of dropping the non-dominant terms which have a negligible effect to the main term. So the main term here is n of square, which is the quadratic time complexity, and the we can say the non-dominant term is here is n. So we will remove the n, and this will have an time complexity of O of n square, which is the quadratic time complexity. So we can say here as quadratic time complexity. So this is the example of quadratic time complexity also, and also the dropping the non-dominant terms, which is the fourth rule in our big O notation rule book. So let's move to the first, or you can say the main page, and the next step is going to be the what is the space complexity, heap and stack. So as you will see here, when we have started this tutorial and we have learned about the readable and the scalable code, that what is good code, a code which is readable and scalable. So the readable means that it is clean code that every other developers can understood easily. So by scalable it means that it has good speed. So in order to calculate the good speed of the code, we have calculated the time complexity of the functions. So as you see, all of these examples are about the time complexity. So as you see here, these 6 examples and the linear time, all of the things that we have discussed until now, these are all about the speed, the time complexity. So the code scalable means that the code has a good speed and a good memory, or we can say the space complexity. So to calculate the speed, we use this time complexity term, and in order to calculate the big O of memory we use the space complexity term. So we have discussed about the time complexity. Now the next step is that we are moving towards the calculating the space complexity of functions. Now we will move towards calculating the space complexity of functions. So in space complexity we have these terms heap and stack. So when we are discussing about the memory we have heap and stack. So what is heap? So let me write it here. So what is heap? So heap is the place, or we can say the part of the memory where variables are stored in heap data structure. So I will write here variables variables are stored in heap data structure. So it will be this one. So all of the variables that we declared, for example, the variables, for example, I have declared I is equal to 0, and in different examples I have declared different variables. For example, the array, all of these variables will be stored here, which is in the heap, and the next term is going to be the stack. So stack data structure is all of the function calls will be stored here in this part of the memory. So I can write it here, function calls are stored in the stack data structure. So you can clearly understood that the difference between the heap and the stack. So now what I want to, so let's move here. So we have understood what is space complexity. So the space complexity we will discuss it with the help of examples. So you will clearly understood it when I will perform two examples. We will understood the space complexity with the help of two examples, and you have understood the difference between heap and stack. So heap is the part of the memory where variables are stored, and the stack data structure is the part of the memory where function calls are stored. So when we have a lot of function calls, the stack you have also read, or you can say you have read somewhere the word stack overflow. So the stack overflow means that when we have a lot of functions calls in the stack and it overflows. So next step is what causes space complexity. So let's go here, and so let's go to our cheat sheet. So here I have written it, what causes space complexity. So the space complexity is causing by variables, data structures, function calls, and allocations. So variables, data structures, functions calls, and allocations are the reasons for the space complexity. So as you will see here, when I will go to some of the examples where we have where we have declared variables, I think it is so here. So as you will see here we have declared variables. So these variables, this array data structure, the function calls, allocations, these terms call the space complexity, because these variables, or we can say these value will be stored somewhere in the, we can say somewhere in the memory, and memory, in order to focus on the memory we have used the term space complexity, as we use the term time complexity for the speed of the code. So what we will do is we have what causes the space complexity, the four terms. These are the four terms that causes the space complexity: the variables, data structures, function calls, and allocations. Now I hope you have understood that which things causes this space complexity. Now what we'll do is we will perform two examples, and with the help of these examples we will learn about space complexity. So let's create a new file which will say
example 7.js. Let's create a new file, and in this file we will create one example. So let's create a simple function. So I will create a function with the name of hi, and this function will contain n, and or we can say array or n, whatever you can write. And what this function will do, this function will have a for loop, and it will we have let I is equal to 0, I will be less than n, and then we will increment the I. And then what we will do is we will console dot log hi. So we will console dot log hi for every term, and then here we will call the function hi and pass this n. Let's create this n over here also. So let's say it will be 1 2 3. So let's save it. Now what we want to do is we want to calculate the big O notation for the space complexity. So for the space complexity, what we can do, so let's say, so let's assume we don't have this array. So let's assume we don't have this array, and we have just, so let's start with a simple example. So let's say this is our function and we want to calculate the space complexity for this. So the space complexity depends on the variables, data structures, or we can say a function calls, memory allocations. So the here how many variables are stored. So the variable, there is only one variable which is stored in the memory, which is I is equal to 0. So the space complexity is going to be O of, so it will be constant time complexity, because there is only variable how long this array will be, there will be only one variable which is stored in the memory. So it remains constant and it does not increase with n. So this is the, we can say that constant time complexity. So the big space complexity, we can say space complexity for this function is O of 1, because there is only one memory, there is only one variable which has been stored in the memory. So this is the example of the, we can say, space complexity which has a constant time complexity. Now let's move towards the second example. So let's create a new function with the name of print n times, it will have an parameter with the name of n which will provide. So let's create an array, an empty array with the name of color array. So what we will do is we will run the for loop here. So in the for loop we will use set I is equal to 0, I less than n, and I plus plus. Here what we will do is we will use color array. So oops, so color array, for every index what I want to do is I want to store a variable, I want to store this color red in this array, and from this function what I will return is I will return this color array. Now what I will do is I will call this function which is print n times, and I will give it a name 5, or we can say pass 5 as an argument. So what this function will do is, so it will take 5 as a parameter, and this loop will run from 1 to 5, and for every index it will store this red color in this array. So this, in this array it will be stored. So let's calculate the space complexity of this function. So as you will see, for every item there is something new which will be stored in the memory in this array. So array is the data structure which causes the space complexity. So O of, so there is this variable which is stored in the memory and this array. So for this variable the space complexity is O of 1.
So for this variable we can say the space complexity will be of 1, but for this array we can say the space complexity is going to be of n. So it will be O of n. You can write of n here, or also you can write it, oops, let's cut it from here and here also. The main idea is you have to understood that how can we calculate the space complexity. So the space complexity depend on the variable declarations, or we can say the value that is stored in the variable, and also the data structure, which is the array data structure. So in this way you can calculate the complexity. So the space complexity for this function, for this function is O of, so O of n. So this is the space complexity for this function. So I hope you have understood the idea of space complexity. So what is the space complexity, how can we calculate the space? So this is the all thing that you have to understood about the space complexity. So it is very simple. So let's move towards the next our main file, and let's focus on the next step. So the next step is the final one, which is let's take the real world example of adding feature to Twitter, and then discuss its big O notation. Now let's move to the Twitter, and here what we'll do is we will take an example. So I have moved to the Twitter, and here let's say if we are working for the Twitter and we want to calculate, or we can say we want to get the first tweet and the last tweet of the user. So for example, if I am the user and we want to calculate not calculate, we want to get the first tweet that I have posted, or we can say I have tweeted, and the last tweet, or we can say the current tweet that I have tweeted. So we want to calculate, we want to get these tweets, so we want to add this feature in the Twitter. So let's say we have a button here. When we will click on it, we will get the first and the last tweet. So what data structure we will use for this? So what is the big O notation for this? What is the space complexity for it? So let's calculate it. So let's create a new file with the name of, let's say, twitter.js, and here what I will do is, let's say we have an array const. So let's say we have tweets here, and the tweets are going to be something like, we can say a, then we have second tweet a. So let's say we have 5 tweets here with the name of a, b, c, d, and e. Now what we want to do is, let's create a function, and we can name it as first, last, and we will receive an array as an argument. Now what we want to do from this function? So first of all, let's call this function here, which will say first, last, and we will pass the tweets as an argument here. Now you will see we want to calculate the first and the, we want to get the first tweet and the last.
So if you want to calculate the first weight, what you have to do is you have to use, oops, so in order to calculate the first weight, what you have to do is you have just use array and at index 0. In this way you can calculate the first weight. And if you want to calculate the last weight, what you have to do is you can use array dot length minus 1. So in this way, so let's create a variable which will say first weight. Then let's create another variable which will say last weight. So now you can see we have calculated the first weight we have got from this data structure, which is the array data structure we are using, and we have got this first weight and the last weight of the user, and we can add this functionality to this Twitter application. So now you have to calculate the big O notation for this. So what will be the big O notation for this? So the big O notation for this is going to be the constant time complexity, because we are performing the, what we can say is constant time complexity, because we are performing the only one operation. For example, if there I have tweeted 1000 tweets, or if I have tweeted 5 tweets, it doesn't depend on the length, because we are just getting the first item and the last item, or we can say the first tweet and the last tweet. So it will have a time complexity or big O notation of O of oops, O of 1. So the big O notation for this feature to be added to Twitter is going to be O of 1, which is constant time. So this is the constant time complexity if you want to add this feature to the Twitter. So let's move to the our file. So we have completed all of our steps, which are 14 steps, and the last part is going to be the cheat sheet. So this big O notation is very important for us. So let's move towards the cheat sheet. So here I have a, so where it will be, I think, yeah, here. So this is the cheat sheet that you have to understand. Here all of the things are compressed, all of the logics, or we can say all of the concept that we have understood are compressed in this file. So let's discuss it. So first step is big O's, all of the big O's. So O1 is going to be the constant time. Here we will have no loops in our function. The second one is O log of n, which is logarithmic, which means usually searching algorithms have log of n if they sorted binary search and not hash maps though. So we will discuss it in the later videos when we will discuss about the different data structures and algorithms. So this is a very large course in which we will discuss about all of these terms, all of the data structures and algorithms in details, and we will discuss all of our terms and we will use all of these in these videos and all of these in these tutorials that we will discuss about data structures and algorithms. So the next term is O of n, which is linear. So this will get when we will perform for loops and while loops. So we have performed different examples that we have performed in these files, so you have clearly understood. Next thing is O of n times log of n, which is log linear, which means sorting operations usually. So we will also discuss it when we will perform sorting algorithms. The next step is O n to the raised power 2. We have discussed it in this example, which is quadratic time complexity, which means that every element in a collection need to compare to every other element, two nested loops. So this will we will get this quadratic time complexity when we will perform nested loops. So the second one is O
2 to the raised power n, which is exponential. So recursive algorithms that solve problems n, these have exponential time complexity. Then we have of n factorial, which is factorial time complexity. So it means that you are writing a loop for every element. So let's next step is iterating through half of the collection is O of n. So for example, if we are iterating through half of the collection, which will be n by 2, the big O notation for it will also will be the same, which will be O of 1, O of n, sorry. So if we have two separate collections, for example, the rule number 3 that we have earlier stated, that of a plus b, which means that if we have different inputs, for example, if we are receiving two different arrays, then and we are looping through it, and then we must have different terms for different inputs. So what can cause time in the function? So as we have discussed earlier, that what causes space complexity. Now what causes the time in the function? So why our function take time to perform? So it depends on the number of operations that it performs, such as plus, minus, multiplication, division, and also the comparisons. For example, if it will be lesser than, if it will be greater than, if it will be equal to, and then the loops, for loop, while loop, and then the outside function calls. So these four steps, or we can say these four things implement, or these things causes the time in the function, or these things which will slow down our function or our code. Now the next thing is the rule book. So the rule book is, in big O notation rule book, we have four rules which are always worst case, which means that big O notation always concerned about the worst case scenario. The rule number 2 is we are moving the constants from our big O notation. The rule number 3 is different inputs should have different variables, which will be of a plus b, and a and b arrays nested, then of a times b. So if we will have nested loops, then we will use o into a plus b. The rule number 4 is drop non-dominant terms. We have discussed it in detail, that if one term has a negligible effect on the other, then we will drop it. So the last step is what causes space complexity. So the space complexity is caused by variables, data structures, function calls, and allocations. So this is the cheat sheet. You can pause the video, you can copy it. So I will so you can slowly write this all, so it will be very helpful for all of you when you will want to prepare about the interviews, or we can say when you want to review the big O notations, you can use this cheat sheet here. So this is the cheat sheet. So this is the main idea of big O notation. I have explained everything about the big O notation that you want to understand for the time complexity, for the space complexity. So this is very important, because if you save time and money for your company, you are a superstar, because these are very expensive. It saves company a lot of money. So if you write a code which saves the money for the company, if you write an efficient code, if you write a scalable code, then you are a superstar for the company. So these things will make you a better engineer, because these are very important wherever you go for interviews, for startup, for fan companies, whichever company you want to go, they will ask these terms about the big O notation in the interviews, because these are very important. So these are the all things that I want to explain, that I hope you have learned from this video about the big O notation.